live from Houston, Texas. Welcome everyone to today's episode of What Makes You Tick. This time we're happy to be here on time because last week, we had technical issues. All that did was create a great conversation. And my 29th episode will have the same thing. But of course, as usual, before we dive in, let's get to a couple of quick housekeeping notes. And I'm excited to have this gentleman. This will be one of my first politics talks that I never have. You guys that know me, I'm not a politician. So all we're going to do is have a great conversation today with this gentleman. Look, this is an interactive live session. You're encouraged to participate however you can. Ask questions, connect, whatever you need to do. Just drop it in the chat and we'll get to it and bring some key insights to anything that you ask. We'll use LinkedIn's DM and the comment section on the events posting and for any behind the scenes coordination. So feel free to message me if you have an issue or a question. Now, I'll take the questions. I'll be honest. I say that every week. I don't know if I can fix your technical issues, but I'll try. If you get disconnected from time to time, look, just rejoin. LinkedIn does this. We know that many of the listeners are commuting, they're working. And if it's guys, a lot of guys, you're out shopping in the malls or doing something because we're last minute and go get our gifts for Christmas. But look, this is a large community, so participate however you can. Now, before we get started, I tell you what, how about we get started and we'll introduce this guest. My guest today is the kind of leader who doesn't wait for permission to serve. He shows up, he rolls up his sleeves, and he gets to work, mistakes and all. A familiar, respected name across Montgomery County, he lives by Teddy Roosevelt's reminder that doing something is always better than doing nothing. And his track record will prove it, serving on Congressman Dan Crenshaw's staff and leading the newly completed Kevin Brady Community Center. He's built a reputation for action, accountability, and stepping forward in the courts or when it counts. Now, he's running as a candidate for Municipal Judge in Conroe. James brings a legal study background from George Mason University and a deep root in the Woodlands business, arts, and civil community. This conversation goes beyond titles. It's about fairness, responsibility, and real-life leadership. Plus, it might have a few wildly creative excuses of people that bring to court, usually involving the flow of traffic, if you know what I mean, and other overcompetent GPS stuff. Yes, my guest today is here to talk politics. And again, if you know me, that's odd, but it's a great and it's an honor, pleasure to find out what makes James Holian tick. James, man, it's awesome to have you on. Give the listeners a little bit insight to what makes you tick.
Man, I mean, Bryan, you kind of covered it all. I really appreciate you having me on. I know when you messaged me a while back, I was really excited, heard about your show, haven't had a chance to listen to it up until you messaged me. And so watched a couple of episodes and just want to say this is an awesome platform, awesome kind of topic, a conversation to bring up with people, especially, leaders within our community. And, it's always funny being on this side of it because I've always looked up to so many people and I still do. And so, I'm truly honored that you thought of me. I was born and raised in Needville, Texas, in 1994. That's basically opposite side of Houston, real small town. Went to college, George Mason University, like you mentioned, where I majored in government and international politics and minored in legal studies.
Uh-huh.
What got me into that was I remember, and don't want to get too political on your show.
No, go, whatever you want. We'll talk.
Yeah, I was a sophomore or junior in high school, and I remember at the time President Obama going on his apology tour in the Middle East, and I got fired up, and I remember seeing it on the news, and politics wasn't one of those things I followed. I thought I was going to be like a history or anthropology major because I love history. It's what really gets me like interested in most things. But I saw this apology tour and I remember being in, I believe it was first grade and sitting there and watching the planes hit the towers. And, when he announced this, I remember talking to my parents, mentioning it to my friends and being like, does anyone know what we're apologizing for? Like, I understand like war is nasty and war is bad, but we lost 3,000 American citizens on just a normal day. Yeah. And it got me so motivated and so hyper-focused on, I guess, the politics or government aspect of it that I joined the debate club where I was the first team in my high school history to go for policy debate to the state championship round, where we made it into the quarterfinals, I believe.
Yeah.
And that was junior year. Senior year, we were projected first, but instead of focusing on myself, me and my debate partner, or on ourselves, me and my debate partner decided to kind of split up and grow the program. And so, instead of having the two quote unquote varsity lettermen or powerhouses on the same team, we split up, took on freshmen, took on underclassmen, and really tried developing a culture of success within the Neville High School debate program, which I'm glad to say we did. Haven't checked in on them in a while, but I do know, I'm pretty sure they go to state practically every year for policy debate now.
Wow.
But it was really exciting. So after college, came back home, got a temp job at the Fort Bend County Elections Administration, and there's nothing at the moment more demoralizing than getting a college degree, spending all that money and time studying, and then taking a minimum wage temporary job right out of college. And
I did the same. I can relate. I did the same. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's great how it all ended up working out. But man, at the time I was kind of down on myself, but I was really interested to learn at least the inside part of the process. And then that's where I found what I really loved. When I was setting up and delivering voting machines, I saw campaigners out in the parking lot and just talking to people, being social, advocating for what they thought was right in their candidates. And so I went home that night and I told my dad, I was like, I know what I want to do. I was like, I don't even know if it's a job or if it's just a volunteer thing, but I want to help the right people get elected. I want to help inform my community of the values of the people that I support, and hopefully be a good representative of those values.
Yeah.
And so sat down with a couple of people and found a way in and got a campaign job. Yes, they do exist. There are full-time campaigners for a man named Kevin Roberts out in the Champion Forest area of Houston. He was running for Congress at the time. Funny enough, that was actually the first election Dan Crenshaw ran into. So Dan Crenshaw was one of my opponents.
Wow.
It was a really good time. Had great success in it. Canada didn't win. We made it to the runoff, but he didn't win. But my actions and role in that position got me noticed by the higher ups in that campaign, which is what led to a job that came about 6 months after that, which was campaigning for Congressman Kevin Brady. And that, honestly, if I had like a glory days or a job where I had the most fun, that was definitely it. I mean, I was, 20, 25, 26 years old, maybe even like 24, and debating, like on stage, debating like actual congressional candidates, people who were qualified and running.
Wait,
for
you were debating. You weren't running the debate. You were actually debating.
I was actually debating. I would go in there, I would say a piece, and then the opponents would say a piece, because Mr. Brady was in DC. He was working a lot. He was actually serving, and so he couldn't make it to every single forum. He couldn't make it to all these different events. And so I would go in his place as a field representative for Congressman Kevin Brady. And so I'm debating full blown adults as like this young man who's still trying to figure life out. And it was just euphoric. It was a great time. One thing led to another. I had a couple of other jobs here and there, like a law firm. Opened up my own campaign consulting firm for a little bit. And then also, like you said, worked with Congressman Dan Crenshaw until I landed where I'm at now, which is funny enough, life's a full circle. I'm the director of the Kevin Brady Community Center, where I run the operations and the staff there, and just try to do good by the community by offering a place that's affordable to everybody to have large, nice events.
Wow. And you said a couple of things, and we've known each other for a while with their interaction with the Woodlands Chamber and the networking here, the Cup of Joey, just many different things. So you and I have had conversations, and I respect what you're trying to do. So that's why I wanted to have you on and have this discussion. I am not a politics guy, but I have like so many questions going through my head. First of all, how did you get from Needville to George Mason?
I got recruited through debate. And I don't know exactly if your audience knows much about the debate scene, but Needville is a very small, traditional, ideologically conservative town.
Correct.
And so the way we debated was on, clarity, education. Just imagine a debate, and that's how we debated. Now there's this thing that kind of took over, especially CX, or policy debate, as it's called, where it's called spreading.
Okay. And
so imagine two auctioneers in their auctioneer voice debating. That's kind of what it turned into. And they tried getting me to do that in college. And I tried to learn it, but also, I told them, I was like, this doesn't make sense. We're trying to exploit loopholes to win debates. Because if you can lay out more arguments than your opponents can in the short amount of time you have to lay them out, all the ones they don't get to, technically you win those arguments.
Yeah.
And I was never a fan of that style of debate. Me and my high school debate partner were good at running like theory arguments against that. Being like, you can't learn anything. You can't. There's really no point to having debates if we're just going to basically be like auctioneers or rappers, and not be understandable to the judge or our audience. And so freshman year of college, I actually dropped out of debate. It was a hard decision because I really did love it. It was something that inspired me, but the direction that it was, not even it was going, because at the college level, it was already there.
Yeah.
There was just no place for me in it. So that's originally what brought me out there. Plus, being someone who knew I was going to major in some type of poli-sci environment, it's like 15 minutes south of DC.
Right.
So the history, the location, the debate program, that was all of it. And George Mason was at the time, if not the top, one of the top 3 debate schools in the nation.
Wow. No, and that's awesome. You don't normally see, here where there's so many people from different areas that get here that would have gone to George Mason, but from somebody to go here, that's amazing. But I'm sitting here and I'm listening to your story, and one of my big things, educator for many, many years, and the Cup of Joey stuff and everything we've discussed, is you seem to have a path. Now, it took you a little bit longer. It took you, I guess, from what I understand, probably into high school to college to figure out kind of your path or your purpose. But you've been able to obviously connect your purpose, what you stand for, to your path as far as a career. I don't know that. I wish there was a better way to make that connection to kids. I think we focus on some of the wrong things in what we do. We focus on the, well, let me say it. We focus on the test, the STAR test and all the other testing, instead of actually, if I could connect you with what you did earlier in, let's say, junior high school or high school, you would be more motivated to take that test because you had a purpose and you had a connection. Does that make sense? Yeah.
Well, and the big thing too, that I think is like you said, the generic test, I had the capability of being, a top tier student.
Yeah.
But I was a young high school man. I'm human. I got distracted by mistakes, by social groups, by a bunch of different things. And so I ended up pretty much middle of my class.
Yeah.
But it's because I wasn't passionate about all the course materials.
Correct.
I was really good at math. Junior year, I believe it was junior or senior year, I was taking a dual credit calculus and trigonometry class.
Yeah.
That because I was so focused on debate and so passionate about debate, I missed a lot of the first classes because they fell at the same time as debate tournaments. Mm-hmm. Because of that, it was a very strict college class in a high school. We essentially, I had to catch up in the class on my own time without an instructor.
Yeah.
And so I was already a year ahead in math and in school. And so I decided to drop that class to put my focus where my passion was and where I thought that it would enable me to have growth in my future.
Yeah. Yeah. No, and the funny thing is, one of the things that I've been diving into is AI, and I bet you AI could help us do that. And I don't want to go off on the tangent with the education AI, because honestly, look, I think from a standpoint with AI, if used correctly, it's a great tool, and it helps us to learn things that we might not have been able to learn, and free us up to do things that are our strengths or things that we love. Like I was a baseball guy. Heck, if I could help use AI in school and I could learn and do, but from a politics standpoint, with AI becoming a big impact, and especially based around trust and clarity, how can you combine politics? Now, granted, there's a lot of words in here that people would look at me and go, "Oh, you can't have those words together." Politics, trust, and clarity, and AI. How can you put that all together? Or that's got to be a challenge for you to put all that together as being in politics.
Yeah, well, it's almost a dichotomy, especially in politics. It depends how you use AI. Now, in the era of the beginnings of AI and where we're at now, there's a whole lot of different things people use it for. I know candidates that use it for like analytics, where they will scroll through their comments and check, like, well, is this positive feedback? Is this negative feedback? Like, Like where do the commenters or where does the public stand on what I'm saying?
Yeah.
There's some people that use it to help generate ideas, for posts, for engagement, for different things like that. And then obviously the more glaring and kind of serious one that you worry about are deep fakes, right? Like you can make whatever picture you want on certain on most AI platforms.
Absolutely.
And you can make fake pictures, fake videos, fake things. And, I do use AI a little bit in my campaign. I use it for some voter analytics. And I try to do like about a post a day, if not like 3 a week on my social media. And one of the big things I try to focus on with that is it's hard to come up with these ideas. So there's a couple of posts that I can mention that I used. I don't use the AI post exactly, but I'll help it give me ideas to brainstorm. Okay, what do I think would be a good engaging post? For instance, like the post I made asking about what's the most common excuse you've used to get out of a ticket.
Yeah.
It gave me like a list of about 20 different options. And I looked and I was like, oh, I bet you there are some really good stories in there that I can physically engage with someone and respond in. Now I always write the post in my own words. Yes. AI loves to add hashtags. I know I'm young. I don't completely understand hashtags. So I will use those hashtags in my post. I don't know if it does any good or not, but it's one of those things. I think it helps with like search or algorithms or things like that. Yes. So that's where I trust the AI, but where I don't trust it is deep content, right?
Yeah.
It's just like anything else. If you're taking a driver's test or a test that's really important and on specific skills or knowledge that you're going to have to use, yes, you wouldn't just trust anybody to do it for you.
Right.
Like you might use it to review, you might use it to learn, but you would always double check the work. Always.
You should. I mean, you can have what's the word I'm looking for? Phantoms, or you can. Sometimes it takes information and it creates information that's not real or that's made up on accident because it doesn't know any better. But I do the same thing. I mean, a lot of my posts are AI written. The funny thing is, and I'll tell this story all the time, is from what I've been doing is I'll make sure that it's got to be my story. It's got to be my words. The prompt is everything. And how you do the prompt and put the information in is huge. I can write better now because of this, because I go through and read and I make sure and I adapt it and make sure it's mine, and I'll change or add depending on what I want, because I want it still to be my personality. Because honestly, if I'm going to put something out there, I'm putting myself out there. So why would I want AI to be me? But I will say it
changes your personality in a sense. Like if you rely 110% on it. Another good thing I didn't even really mention that I really love about AI. I don't know if you've ever Googled something complex. I can't even think of a specific example besides like, where the highest voter turnout is in certain sections, or, the best, I don't even know, but that was always really hard to Google. I used to say, and now it's more true than ever. I really wish we had a smarter kind of populace, because we have more access to more information than we've ever had. We all have computers and Googles in our pocket. But now with AI, you could put in a sentence filled with typos and grammatical errors, and it still knows what you're saying and will try to get you to the information that you're looking for. Whereas Google, a lot of the times, is hit or miss.
Yeah.
So it's a really, really cool tool that I know we're just at the beginning. Someone said in a post that I was reading, this is the worst it'll ever be.
I heard that same thing today. Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah. No, and it is. And the funny thing, and the other piece is, you can, depending on what you want to do from a business standpoint, from an education standpoint, from whatever, from a politics, if you use different AIs, you can put the same information in and you'll get completely different results. Some do better than others. So being able to find an AI that, one, fits what your business model is extremely important. The other piece, because it becomes a lot more useful tool, and two, it allows you to also get your thoughts. In other words, it's focused on what you're doing, so it'll help you get out there and be what you want to be. Two, the best way for you to be out is to be out, shaking hands and kissing babies.
Yeah,
kissing babies.
Or, some candidates get those two mixed up, and they'll shake babies and kiss hands.
Yeah, exactly. That's me. Come on, man. I'm a coach. That's what I do. Yeah. But yeah, it's funny how all of that can be the AI piece from your standpoint can be huge, from a business standpoint can be huge. And what most people don't understand is, one, you can utilize it, just don't make sure that it's not something that you rely on consistently, but using it like any tool, keeping it sharp and making it an impact just by letting you get out there can be huge. We're getting close to our first break. So what I want you to do, why don't you go first? Let's talk books. I was in the first segment with a little book. Talk about your book. I'd love to hear what it is.
So the book that I think that has taught me the most and really helped me, kind of develop into the person I am. It's actually a local author. His name's Terry Weaver, and the book's called Evolution of a Leader. Mm-hmm. It's a really great book. It's an easy read, and it's kind of interactive too. Like within the book, there's parts where you can fill out, like it asks you to fill out. There's a certain term for it. I haven't read the book in 2-3 years. I tried picking it back up recently, but with running a community center and running a campaign, it's hard to find time. But it tells you to write your mission statement or your purpose, essentially.
Yeah.
And I picked up this book that I filled out 3-4 years ago, and my purpose was doing what I can to help grow and develop the community. And that doesn't just mean economically; it really means socially. Mm-hmm. But it basically dives into how leaders were viewed and established from the beginning of the 1900s to today. Whereas before, it was all about status and leaders having innate skills or traits that they were born with, to back in about the 60s, the 50s to 60s, becoming more liberal with it, where it's like anyone can be a leader over anything. And now you got this more modern type leader, which is, leaders aren't born. You can grow into a leader. You just got to make sure you have emotional intelligence. You got to be able to adapt to physical challenges. You got to be committed to growth within yourself and your team. Yeah. And so it's really, really interesting. And I really do feel like I try every day to embody the modern leader, which is to motivate, inspire, and grow. And so I recommend it to anyone. It's an easy read. Again, it's called Evolution of a Leader by Terry Weaver. Another good one. I got to give it a shout out.
Go. Yeah.
He is a polarizing figure. So I completely understand, if there's any hesitation with this, but Dan Crenshaw's book, Fortitude. Okay. That's a book where if you're struggling or you're trying to achieve something hard, I mean, he goes and you could tell, there's a lot of authors that use ghostwriters and are in very bland language.
Right.
But the way this book is written, you can tell it was written by Dan Crenshaw. And if you've ever heard him talk or do interviews, for better or worse, you'll know exactly what I mean by the time you're through the first chapter. But it takes a lot of his SEAL training knowledge, really his mental fortitude that you have to have through SEAL training and operations, and how to apply it to everyday life. Great book.
That's awesome. I didn't even know he had a book. I may have to put that one on my list. Look, my book today, I will hit on briefly because I always pick one. I haven't redone a book yet, so we'll keep going until I have to. The Automatic Millionaire by David Bach. I had somebody recommend it to me, and it's about getting rich overnight, which, again, if you know me, I'm not a money guy, but it's really about building wealth quietly and making smart financial decisions automatically. The funny thing is, as I was reading this book, it does kind of follow that theme, but it never really, I never got the impact of what I thought it was going to be. It was different than I thought the book would be. I mean, he goes through and his idea is to show ordinary people how to win financially, not through discipline or deprivation, but through setting systems in place and letting time and your money compound interest without doing a bunch of heavy lifting. Mm-hmm. There were a couple of the takeaways that I got from it was, one, make it automatic. And it's funny because, I went home. My dad was in the hospital this weekend. He's doing good. That's where literally I just got off the road about 30 minutes before we hopped on. And my mom's using a checkbook. And I can't remember the last time I've used a checkbook, But one of the conversations we had was she's always been putting away money for the grandkids. And it comes out automatically. So being able to pay yourself first and pull things out automatically of 10 to 15% of your gross actually sets you up for a better success later in life. 2, the latte factor, which is Look, there's a lot of us right now. I went to Starbucks today. I had a gift card. I haven't been to Starbucks in years, but spending $5 to $10 here and there a day makes a big impact. So imagine if you didn't spend that, what you could do with that money and be able to invest it. The third takeaway that I liked was about home ownership and debt strategy and how it counts and how important it is to pay mortgages. And most of us pay monthly, but if you pay bi-monthly, it'll avoid consumer debt and it helps eliminate some of the big stuff. When we were talking about right out of college, one of the jobs that I had for 2 months was in mortgage loans. And I learned a lot about it. And I thought, okay, great. Minimum wage. At the end of 2 months, I went straight commission. I had nothing coming up because like a politician, you and like a real estate person, you had to build a relationship with real estate people. And I didn't have that. I didn't know how to do that. So I think I worked there 2 months and 2 weeks and quit. And I loved it. It was great. But I was like, oh my gosh, I didn't realize, oh my goodness. I just kind of freaked out. But all right. So today on our first reset, today is my 29th podcast of What Makes You Tick. It's an authentic, relaxed, purposeful conversation centered around trust, clarity, and traction. Why? Because we want to incorporate your purpose into what you do and make an impact in your life and others as we go along through the conversation. How do we do this? We do this by sharing business and personal stories on building culture of trust, creating a clear, impactful message for leaders, and with insight that will help you to build traction within your life. Today, my guest is James Holian. So we're having a great conversation about what makes him tick. So look, okay, I want to dive back in to start the second segment. I want to dive a little bit into AI. And where do you see, okay, well, let's take politics or business, whichever one you want. I'll let you go. Where do you see local businesses or how this can impact local businesses? Because we're in Montgomery County. Montgomery County and Conroe is kind of conservative. And I could see a lot of pushback in this. But do you see any of that, or how do you see that this could make an impact for businesses?
Yeah, I mean, it can be a huge impact, and so it's not necessarily a business, but there's definitely business learning skills in there. For instance, my campaign.
Yeah.
I'm not a man of means. I don't have a whole lot of money tucked away. I got to make every dollar count or every minute count because, especially running a campaign where I'm not, some real big Conroe local name whose, family grew up here and was established here. I really got to try and get a message out, and the way through is social media. And so, like I said earlier, using AI to help you just get ideas. Because the hardest thing with me with social media, I was absent on social media.
Yeah.
Not a big fan. I don't like talking about myself. I don't like, always having to feel like I'm telling people exactly what I'm doing when. But AI has really helped me be able to campaign or advertise, if you will, for myself and social media, for better or worse. And I got some pretty cynical views of what social media has done to our society. But it is our virtual public square. It's, you don't see newspaper yellers on the street corner anymore. You haven't for decades, well before I was even born. But you see it all on social media, even news, TV's plummeting. Now with subscriptions to Hulu, Netflix, Disney Plus, ESPN, you don't really see satellite or cable being a huge place for people to go get their information. They get it from Facebook, they get it from X, they get it from TikTok, from Instagram. So finding a way to use AI to utilize that. But then also, what's really hard, and especially it's something that I think about with the community center a lot, is okay, well, what room is being reserved the most and for what purpose? Or for let's say a restaurant, what menu item is being served the most? And how's that correlate with the feedback we get in on reviews? Okay, well, this is a menu item that can go, on certain deals or something to drive in more customers, or, what menu items or what product is kind of suffering and either needs to be removed or adjusted in order to hit the goals and achievements that you need to grow the business the way you want, right? Because not everybody's looking to grow their business into a huge franchise. And I know to the younger listeners, they might be like, what? Don't you always want your business to be the biggest and the best? One thing I learned when I opened my own consulting firm was, no, I mean, not necessarily, right? Some people want to remain like locally big. Some people do want to go statewide or nationally, recognized. But, a lot of these mom and pop shops like the amount of work, they like the amount of responsibility that they're at, and it fits right into their lifestyle. It just depends on what the business owner's objectives are.
Right.
But AI is one of those things that, people are scared of it. And I understand it. I get it. Like there's a lot to be concerned on, but also it's such a unique tool that we've never had access to before,
right,
that I really think could benefit, especially those mom and pop businesses who might not be able to afford an HR manager, who might not be able to afford
marketing,
a legal analyst or a marketing person.
Yeah.
You now have this tool that kind of is a competitor for these businesses and these, consulting groups that will inevitably drive their prices down and just create more competition. And I think overall it'll be very healthy for our economy and our society once we fine tune it and get it to where we believe it'll be best served.
Yeah. Now, granted, we're in the Woodlands, Conroe, Montgomery County, all that area. Have you seen anybody or seen a business that uses it, like a small business?
Yeah. I mean, again, I'm more focused on political stuff and campaigns. Yeah. And as a political campaign, it almost kind of is a small business. I mean, you operate on donations, you operate on a very limited budget. Mm-hmm. Your product is yourself. And the way you get that is by achieving votes, but you got to spend money to do that. And really, just like the things that I said, the voter analytics. I mean, there's so many different aspects that you can use it. You don't have to. There's successful campaigns that don't use it. And I'm not going to name names, but most of the time, especially with where AI is at now, you can see what candidates solely use AI and don't put their own personality or own work into it. There's one candidate in a congressional race that no one really knows of or has heard of. But this candidate, every graphic that they put out, every social media post they put out is so obviously AI. And it's like, oh man, this makes me not trust you because I don't know you. I just know that you're using ChatGPT to basically do everything.
Yeah.
Which I'm not for, especially when it comes to campaigns, you gotta, the biggest part of the campaign is to sell yourself. Right. And if you can't sell yourself and you're relying on AI to create this, kind of fake persona to sell you, then the biggest thing you want to do is get the voters to trust you. And I don't think the voters should trust anyone that's solely operated off AI.
No, because it's all made up and fake.
And
the funny thing is, and one of the you see this, it goes back to trust and clarity. Is it's still about the people. Like we can talk about AI all we want, and it's a great tool, and there's still so many unknowns about it, and there's still a lot of growth ahead of it. It's just like the internet. I mean, I remember when the internet came out, and you had this big black cable, and you had to hook it up to, and you had to have and you had
that dial tone.
Yeah.
I remember. I'm old enough to know the dial tone. I remember getting on AOL, and my parents trying to pick up the phone.
Yeah, exactly. No, and it's, but it's still, the one thing is it still has to be about the people. And I'll be honest, I'm afraid even from the politics side, is that there's a disconnect with our kids growing up because of everything that they're seeing. And I think AI can separate them even more. I went shopping. I'm the guy that likes to go to the H-E-B. I'm not going to order my stuff online. I want to go walk around. I want to get out. And I had to, on my trip to Louisiana, I stopped and I went in the store. I was looking for some stuff to help my parents replace their sink. And so I'm looking in the store and I'm going around these shelves. There were grown people that are sitting in there with headphones on and earbud I get because you may be on the phone, but I'm hearing speakers, people talking like this to other people while I'm like, whatever happened to talking to the person that's around you,
Yeah.
I would, and it's funny because being in Conroe and the Woodlands always strikes me as that type of community where that's what I enjoy, is where we go out and we have conversation, we talk. And you've been around politics for a long time. How you make, or what's the best impact that you can make in the Conroe and the surrounding area as a judge? I
mean, so a judge isn't a political role, right? And this is something that I try to remind people kind of regularly. Judges races aren't popular. I can't campaign on shutting down the border, or I can't campaign on deporting illegal immigrants. My role as a judge is to interpret the law, see if the law or the city ordinance in the case of the municipal court was broken, and what were the circumstances involved in it, right?
Yeah.
But you got to be able to balance out fairness, accountability, and integrity. Those are the three buzzwords you'll hear in almost every judicial campaign, even people who are running in the same race as me, people who are running in other judicial races for other benches. The biggest thing is just remembering your role, and not, because there's mostly conservatives throw this on liberal judges, but you see conservative judges too, and it's essentially legislating from the bench.
Mm-hmm.
It's, I'm not going to enforce this rule, or anyone who gets this type of law broken, like, don't worry, I'm just going to dismiss that case. I'm not going to enforce it. And that's not your job. Your job is to interpret the law, look at every case, look at all the facts of the case, and lay down a judgment appropriately. Now, with a municipal court, it's very similar to a justice of the peace. Big difference is we don't handle like civil, like small claims courts or things like that. We handle, same thing they do, Class C misdemeanors, but mine specifically for Conroe Police Department, not the Sheriff's Department or things like that. So traffic tickets, loitering, littering, 99% of the cases that would come before me don't involve a lawyer. And if they do, I'm saying this jokingly, they almost got to be guilty, because you're spending more money on the lawyer than what you would your speeding ticket. But,
yeah.
But in all, honesty, it's a really, really exciting thing. But what I'm hoping with this run goes deeper than just my judge role. You see, I'm 31 years old, and you see a lot of different people who are running for reelection and different things. And, and I respect all of our elected officials. They put their name, their families on the line. Anyone who's running, I truly respect it, because it's not an easy decision.
Yeah.
There's things that you put yourself that are subject to come out, things that you constantly worried about. It's an additional full-time job, essentially. But we don't see a whole lot of young people in there. We don't see our next generation of leaders stepping up. And I believe it's because it's a generational thing. We see people who are still like our parents or even our grandparents' age in office, and we inherently think, okay, well, those are the leaders. They're super wise. They know better than us. It's still their turn. And I disagree. I mean, you look at the city of Conroe right now. There's not even unspoken, a very well-known like schism just between the people within the politics. You have two groups that constantly run against each other, and they all have very recognizable big Conroe last names. In the last two city elections, the group that was running the city council, they've lost, and they lost because the people didn't agree with their decisions on, this Hyatt hotel deal where the city essentially paid for this hotel to be built, and now is on the verge of, defaulting on it. But then you have this other group that came in, and they're in hot water too for multiple reasons. One, and they'll lay all the blame on the hotel and saying, well, finances are terrible because the last group did this hotel deal. But then in the same breath, they're giving raises to public servants, to city people working for the city of Conroe. And these raises are about $120,000 a year. That's just a raise. That's
I want that raise.
Income. That's what I'm saying.
Can I come to work for you guys? Jeez.
I've never been paid $120,000 a year in my entire life, and they're one raise. And they try to justify it, and depending on who you ask, depends on exactly what their favorite justification is. But the justification is, oh well, they're lawyers. And it's like, no, they are public servants. If they're doing a job to get paid, then they can go work in a law firm, right?
Yeah, stay a lawyer. Yeah.
Yeah. And, I truly do. I have a public servant's heart. I have worked, whether it's for a government, whether it's Montgomery County, the state of Texas, the U.S. House of Representatives, or even in a campaign, which I still see as public service, because there's, especially when you're a field representative, if you're not in that top 0.1%, you're doing it because you love it, because you have a good time with it. And honestly, the biggest thing with me is it fulfills me. I feel like I'm doing good. I'm making positive change for my community. And it's in Conroe. I think we've kind of got away from from these groups having loyalty to the people,
Mm-hmm.
and they're loyal to their groups,
Right.
which you can't have a dual loyalty. And so I'm really hoping that with me running, I'm not going to run on shared values. I'm not going to run on a slate of candidates. I am running as James Holian for Conroe Municipal Judge with my values, my background, my history,
Yeah.
and my message. And I think that's really what's going to win it, because I think the people are tired of what they perceive. And I'm not saying this is exactly what it is, but what they perceive essentially as two good old boys clubs
Yeah.
running the city.
And I've been around for a long time. I've been in this area since 1997. We started coming here, moved here in 98. And look, Conroe had that stigma, right or wrong. It had that stigma.
Mm-hmm.
And I welcome the change. It's funny though. One of the things, and we're getting up against the next break, but there's one thing I do want to discuss, and it has to do with the impact of trust. Look, there's different values. You've got liberals, you got conservatives, you've got people that are in the middle. How do you find how do you gauge trust, or how do you trust people, or how do people trust you that have different values and come from different beliefs? How big is trust in that? How do you build that?
It's huge, and the way you build it is through communication, is by being open, honest. And so, being open and honest, I got friends on both sides of the schism in Conroe.
Mm-hmm.
I helped Susan Johnson in her campaign. I've met Howard Wood a couple of times. He might not remember me if it was ever brought up. But I have friends, and I respect the leaders on both sides of the schism. But I think the way that they campaign and the way Conroe politics is chosen or run or elected or whatever word you want to use there, I think does a huge disservice to the city, because like I said, it makes people believe that, not believe, but it makes these groups have a dual loyalty. They have a loyalty to their group, but then they also, have a loyalty to the people of Conroe. But that dual loyalty, sometimes they clash. And so what side do you pick? And I think a lot of the times whenever it's, push comes to shove, they will pick their group, because that's what helped them get elected. That's what helped put them in that position to get there. And, I'm really hoping that with me running on that platform, I start essentially almost like a movement of getting younger people to put their names out there and be like,
Mm-hmm.
you know what, I respect, the mayor of Conroe, or I respect the former mayor of Conroe, but I think I can make a run for it, and just do it. That's the biggest thing. I think if you believe and you want it, just do it, because you'll never know. You'll never know until you put yourself in the position to try.
Yeah. In this area, you have so many people that are different than they were 20, 30 years ago. You've got it's grown. The Woodlands has grown. Conroe is getting the expansion. The joke I always tell when we talk about growth in this area, I remember when there was a gap between Spring and then getting to the Woodlands, and the gap in, as you're driving up 45 or up 45, and then another gap for you. Now it all blends together.
Yeah.
And I think the impact for us, and I hope that that's kind of your goal, is to build the trust. You've got a lot of people that have different beliefs. They look different. They're liberal. You're getting some liberals in this area, so you get more liberal, conservative. And the building of trust within what you're trying to do, and as you become elected, is huge, because you're going to see people all the time that have different beliefs. You have to be able to keep it to where you can build a trust and trust your people that are around you. Correct? Am I correct?
I mean, you gotta show you're one of the people, right? Like you gotta understand, and you gotta put out there, own your mistakes. The thing that drives me crazy is you have a lot of people and a lot of politicians or elected officials even that feel like, politicians have to be sinless saints. They have to be clean as a driven snow. Honestly, if there's a politician that comes off as like that shiny object that's never done anything wrong, it makes me super skeptical, because it's like, okay, I know people. I know you've at least gotten a speeding ticket, or talked back to a voter. Like, where was your mistake, and what was it like, and how did you overcome it? As opposed to running as this person who's like I said, clean as a driven snow. But again, it all comes down. It comes down to the individual, and that's how I vote. That's how I do this. But like I said, I got friends on both sides of the schism in Conroe, and I really do believe both sides have done good for the city. I think the current city council has done some good for the city, believe it's done some bad. And same with the previous city council when there was the other group of candidates in there. But
there's definitely some growth coming. So absolutely being able to build on what they've started, I think, is where the direction that you want to go.
Yeah. And a lot of people focus on the negative. That's what the public does. There's one thing that Mr. Brady told me when I was working with him that stuck with me, and I was just asking for advice, and it had nothing to do with me running. I wanted to learn. I wanted to know people. I wanted to know the political scene. And I said, Mr. Brady, you've done a lot. And I haven't necessarily heard anything super bad that gives people a reason to hate you. Yet I'm sitting here campaigning and having to defend you against some people. I was like, how do you do it? What's this process? And the biggest thing he told me that I loved, and it's going to stick with me the rest of my life. He said, James, as a leader, you could do anything. You could cure cancer. You could end poverty. You could solve world hunger.
Mm-hmm.
But there's always going to be about 20% of the population that just hates your guts, like for whatever reason they want to hate your guts for. And so, it's always about blocking out the background noise and just running on and doing what you believe is right. And leaving the rest up to the voters. Yeah.
Yeah, I know. As a teacher, I'm sure my number's up this year to probably 50%. Look, let's do a quick reset. Look, thank you for listening to my podcast, What Makes You Tick. James and I are having an authentic, purposeful conversation on trust, clarity, and traction. If you have any questions, we haven't had any participation, but if you have any questions, just drop them in. We've got about another 10 minutes, 12 minutes left. I'd love your engagement. James, what in our discussion would you like to share quickly with the audience? Before we get to the next.
Sorry, you glitched out a little bit.
Yeah. Anything that you'd want to share on a recap that we've talked about?
Basically just talked about why I'm running, what it takes to gain the trust of the community, where lack of trust comes from and how to earn it back or what you can do with it. Talked about AI and how it can be used in small businesses and campaigns, which, I could go on and on about, but really just want to hammer down the reasons why I'm running for the Conroe Municipal Judge. It's, mainly to start this movement of we don't have to pick one side or the other. We can pick individuals from both groups. We can pick individuals just on their individual values. And you can learn a lot from going to my website, James4Judge.com. That's James4Judge.com. I got plenty on there as well.
We'll do a post and after post. I'll make sure I tag James and you can add that if you want. That'd be awesome.
Thank you. I'd really appreciate it.
So one of the things I want to ask, as we close out, there's a couple of things that I want to ask you. One is you get to communicate to a group one thing that you're an expert in. What is that one thing?
Oh man. Well, and I don't know.
We didn't prep for this because I'm just asking for it all the time.
One thing I'm an expert in, one thing I would hope to be an expert in is people, and that's one of the hardest things to be an expert in because you can't know it all. It's not a science. But
that's what being an expert is when you know people, that you don't know it all, and you have to.
Yeah.
One of the you were talking about. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but
no, you're good. You're good.
One of my high school, college professors, I had him for 2 of my classes. And there were things that he would always say is the smartest man is the man that knows that he doesn't know. And the other thing he said was go ride the airplane. What are you talking about? So if you didn't show up on time, he shut the door and he said, look, if you ain't here on time, you're going to sit outside. You're going to learn the lesson. You're going to sit on an airplane because this airplane's taking off. So you got to go sit on the wing, boy. And listen, that's literally, this is Arkansas.
The coach's sayings. I love the coach's sayings.
Yeah. No.
I got plenty of them. Not much I could share here, though. Those high school coaches in Needville were something else.
Okay, you're expert. What are you an expert in?
I'm an expert. I really think if I had to pick one thing and I was forced to pick something, which I feel like I am here, it would be people. And I know that's a very broad term, but it's how people communicate. It's conflict resolution. It's what people want. And it's really just figuring out like what makes them tick, figuring out what makes people tick, what grabs their attention and what they're looking for is what makes me tick, because on any given day, it completely changes. I'll constantly get surprised or, surprised on what people are gravitating towards, what they're stuck on, what they're saying or thinking. And I want to dive in and know why. But, like when me and you were talking, and this is something I don't even know how to explain it. I've been told I'm really good at it, but I can't grasp how or why.
Okay.
I think it's, just things my dad instilled in me growing up. But reading people, there are so many clues that everybody just gives off in any type of communication you give them, whether it's through text, whether it's, talking on the phone, or really the easiest way is in person to person. Whether it's looking to the side or something when you're in the middle of talking, or, really trying to pay attention to if they're paying attention or not, so that you know for yourself if you're conveying a message that they want to hear, or they're getting bored with the conversation, or what it is. And really knowing how to talk in other people's languages. Like, we all speak English, but we all speak differently. We all communicate so differently. And, so I think that would kind of my overall encompassing, I would say I'm an expert in people, with a minor in conflict resolution and reading people, trying to understand them and have empathy. I mean, that goes in with reading people, right? Trying to be able to put yourself in their shoes to understand, well, I was just following the flow of traffic and I got pulled over going 7 miles per hour over the speed limit, but the guy next to me was going,
he was 13. Faster than me, but he didn't pull him over.
Well, I saw on that Facebook post, actually, I saw one, I can't remember exactly who said it. I think his name was, what's his first name? His wife's name was, I think, Aaron Duffy, but Dylan. And he said, I asked a cop one time, like, I was going with the flow of traffic and there were so many cars around me going the same or faster. He's like, why'd you pick me? And the cop apparently told him, he said, son, I don't know if you've ever been duck hunting, but whenever there's a flock of duck flying over you, you just pick one and take a shot. You just pick the one that you think you can get, and you get it. And, that's the life. That's how it is. And so I think those stories are so interesting. I love hearing people's stories.
No, that's awesome. And it's really about understanding people's perspective. To add real quick, one of the things that I today on my drive in a conversation, it didn't dawn on me, but it reminded me that we get offended by what people say. When I say something to you and you respond, we go, huh? And really it's doing is giving you insight into what that person's thinking. It has nothing to do with what you're doing, but it also tells you my message I tried to get out there might not have been the right message, or that there's something. It's looking at a picture. It's like looking at a painting, and each one of you see different things. Understanding people is huge to that.
Well, talking about people getting offended, I think there's a lot that goes into it, especially now. I think a lot of it has to do with social media.
Oh,
I think
absolutely.
It's kids, this environment to where we're so like central focused on ourselves.
Yeah.
It has a lot to do with this, era of political correctness that we went through, even like really started majorly in the Obama administration, where you can't say this word or that word. This hurts this person's feelings or that person's feelings. And so everybody, I think, just needs to take a step back and learn to appreciate someone who will just tell you how it is, who might come off a little blunt.
Yeah.
Now, does that mean that there's not obvious offenses? No, that doesn't mean that at all. There's clearly obvious offenses, right? Like, someone looks at you and says you're stupid, that's pretty offensive. But if someone looks at you and says, hey, I don't think you're fully understanding what I'm saying or what this material is, and then someone turns around and be like, are you calling me stupid? It's like, no, that's not what I'm saying at all. I'm trying to convey that there's a disagreement or a contention between us, and I want to resolve it. And so my biggest advice is what I give to my younger brother.
You're taking my segment. Go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry.
No, go ahead. Stop. No, go.
I tell them, live in the moment. Don't take things so personally. If you live in the moment, you will truly be a happier person, and you'll be much more open to dialogue and criticisms. And don't think you're better than the rest. Understand you are a person that doesn't know it all. You are a person that's going to make mistakes. And there's some people that call it out, and they call it out in completely, different ways. And so that's if I have one takeaway to a younger audience and really just an audience in general, stop taking things so personally all the time.
Yeah. It's funny. You said a minute ago when you said, this is my immature side, when you said you're stupid, I just wanted to go, I know you are, but what am I?
Or your rubber, I'm glue. Everything that you say to me bounces off me, sticks onto you. Yeah.
Just, some of those silly things like that. Look, you took one of my questions away. So let's end it with this other question. You're chasing your dream. What advice would you give to anybody, young, old, with today's technology, even at my age, you can change and chase your dream. What advice would you give somebody that's chasing their dreams?
Man, there's a lot, and outside of the generic, just do it, the Nike slogan, or the, do what you love. My biggest thing I want to convey to people, there's always going to be obstacles. Always. Mm-hmm. Don't let that stop you. Don't let that intimidate you.
Turn them into opportunities.
A big reason, or a big differentiating factor of what makes a good leader from an evolving or a new leader, I think, is, the new leaders or the inexperienced will see an obstacle and just be like, oh, I can't do it because this is in the way.
Yeah.
Or like people who are seasoned, people who have like an emotional intelligence will see that obstacle and be like, there's something in the way. There's got to be a way around it or to erase that obstacle.
Yeah.
Whether it be that there's someone older than you in a race or a position that you want, go for that position. If you think you can handle it, you can handle it and be, the best that you could be for the community or for your business, go for that position. We're at a point where people have a hard time letting go. So just go for it and, let the cards fall where they may, but give it your all. And when there's an obstacle in front of you, don't just stop, keep going, find a way around or find a way to remove it.
I appreciate all of that. Like we're almost out of time. So before we go, I want to say something personal. I spent the last weekend, I left Saturday and just got back today. I went and saw my dad, who was in the hospital. He has congestive heart failure, and the doctor said 5-6 years ago, you got 5 years. So we're past that, and we've been blessed and extremely blessed to have him in our life. And, he had an episode this weekend and went into the hospital. So prayers for him. And I just want to say that, look, I'm a biology guy and I'll miss him if he goes. But the one thing is that he left an impression because he left me and made me who I am because of what he did, because of his integrity, because of the person that he was. And even when he made mistakes, at least in the terms of our athletics, my bad, he would own up to it. And that for me is basically what makes me tick, is trust, clarity, and traction. I learned that from my father. So I wanted just to put a shout out and a prayer to my dad and say, I love you and thank you. And for you guys out there that are listening this far in, or you're re-listening to this, thank your dad, thank your parents, regardless of how you feel about them. They're the ones that brought you into this world, and appreciate that fact, if anything else.
Man, that's really strong, strong. And I'll be praying for your dad. But regardless of the relationship you have with your parents, you wouldn't be in the position you are for your parents or the relationship that you have with them. Absolutely.
Look, please, let's connect. Follow me, follow the show live on LinkedIn, YouTube. You can catch it on Spotify. I'll upload it to Spotify when we're done so you can listen to it. James, please share your LinkedIn information or the best way that our audience can get in touch with you.
Yeah, the best way, especially on the campaign, I do a lot of that on Facebook. That's where most voters tend to be. I'm trying to break into that LinkedIn scene. Not many candidates do. But if you follow my Facebook, that's James Holian. It's right spelled here at that bottom corner, Holian, for Municipal Judge. You can find me there. You can find my website. That's jamesforjudge.com. I believe I have my cell phone number on my website. I'm not afraid of putting it out there because anyone who's interested, I'm willing to talk to them. And, if there's ever a problem, there's a block feature on phones now. So if you become a troll and I stop responding, you know what happened.
No. And look, and I will, I'll put a post, like I said, I'll make sure it gets on Facebook, Instagram. I think I can get it on there. That way, when he adds to it, James can add to it and you can follow him. James, again, thank you for being my guest on today. What Makes You Tick?
Bryan, you're a good friend. Thank you, brother.
No, it was my pleasure. Hopefully this can give it a good insight to people that are looking to build trust, clarity, and traction and find you as far as your judge place.
In politics?
Yes, in politics. Exactly. It's there. It's just always hidden. Look, I grew up in Louisiana politics. Come on, there's no trust in that or what. I had Edwin Edwards. I loved him, but gosh. Look, let's be transitional over transactional. You can find me on LinkedIn. Stay connected for future episodes and deeper conversation. James, again, it's been amazing, my friend. Find and connect with him. Again, look for the information. I will post that afterwards. Join me next week when we'll have an amazing conversation. And look, this is one that I'm extremely privileged, and it's a great way to end 2025. My guest on the podcast will be a legend and a Hall of Fame podcaster. He's in the Hall of Fame for podcasters, Rob Greenlee. You'll want to be here for that conversation. Go off, have a fantastic Merry Christmas week, and enjoy you and your family and the people that are around you and that love you. See ya.
Merry Christmas, Bryan.